are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Weeds with Jimmy Young, our regular weekly podcast. And this week, we're going to talk about growing cannabis. Everybody wants to know how to grow cannabis. Whenever we do a show on growing, we get tons of views. So why not talk to a company that has grow in its name? It's TSRgrow. And I am joined by two gentlemen, Gary Arnold and Mikhail Sagal, right?
That's right.
I got them right. I love making sure I get those names right. All right, Mikhail, you are the president of TSRgrow. You get to go first. Tell us your elevator pitch. What is your company all about? How did it get started?
Well, we got started about actually, believe it or not, 12 years ago, almost to the day. We really, as an engineering company, focused to get into LED lighting. And really understand, we understand all the nuances related to all the things and facets that go into LED product design and manufacturing. And when we got into it, LEDs were first, they barely were a light bulb. And we knew that this was an up and coming market. So we got into that space specifically to focus on LED lighting. And our approach all along has been about solutions. So we don't sell lighting, we sell solutions. And what we've developed is really a platform and a solution for horticulture lighting and control. And when we got into this, we looked at, a lot of fixtures of ballast. Everything is, they're basically dumb fixtures, or for the maybe not the right terminology, but really unintelligent fixtures in terms of they don't give you any feedback. And when we developed our system, it was about removing the heat, centralizing all of the power. So none of our fixtures have ballasts on them. Everything is centralized for the maintenance, the control. Everything is integrated control, so we can have infinite zonability and control for monitoring of power, lighting, adaptability, and really large-scale commercial installation with large-scale commercial installations in mind.
And of course, the basic thing here is we're talking about a living thing, a plant that basically needs water and light. So you're giving it half its life just by being in business and offering these solutions. Gary, as the guy who actually has to tell the story of the company in your role, I'm guessing that, most people who are interested in growing cannabis or any living thing indoors, they need light. So they need your services, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's right. Well, what's interesting too, is that even though we manufacture lights and we have the best out in the business, the very first thing we do is we look at our customer and say, what are you trying to do? What are your goals? What's your business plan? Because it really comes down to how well are they organized and how well do they understand their growing requirements and environment they're going to be in. What we see is that there's a connection that's missing with all of the different elements. So you got HVAC, dehumidification, irrigation, nutrients, and lighting and air movement. That all goes together. And many times, we'll start talking to people in terms of what do you have planned for these different environments? And they say, well, I'm going to do, they're going to look at everything as a silo. And what we ask them to look at is look at this as a whole, a whole entity of a grow area. Don't look at just HVAC or lighting. I says, this all goes together. So one thing that we can do once we get all of the parameters laid out properly for the plants, not for the people, but for the plants that we're growing, then we can make recommendations on the correct lighting, the correct HVAC, the correct dehumidification, nutrients, and air movement. So it all goes together. And that's what we call our lighting as a platform, because it really ties it all together. If you can't buy lighting just by itself, because if you do, you're going to be blind. We were talking about this just a little before, is that how many people just buy lighting by the watts, and they think they're gonna have magic happen, and it doesn't happen that way. Look, we have hundreds of thousands of square foot of canopy under our lights. Every one of our customers will say the same thing. I'm glad you guys are part of our team. because you sit down, you listen to all the things we're dealing with and all the people and the plants, and then you look at even the, the varieties of plants we're looking at, and you come up with solutions that really are important. Now, your lighting is awesome. The way you've distributed the power, get the power out of the grow area, so I can reduce my HVAC sizing, I can reduce my operating costs, but it's really about how we put it all together. And that's really the thing that drives them like every time.
It's like you guys have a great product, this LED lighting product, but you guys know, being in business for as long as you have, you got to have the service to back
That's
up that product, right? I mean, in fact, tell me I'm wrong here. The service usually sells the product. Am I right, Gary?
Exactly right. You're right. And the other part of that too is our customer base, they're all references. And why are they references? Because we deliver what we say we're going to deliver, and then generally more. Every one of our customers will have questions, they'll have needs, they'll have support requirements that are beyond lighting, but they know they can contact us and say, look, I'm having this or that kind of issue or problem, and we can help them out because we have actually local diagnostics that we can run on all of this stuff. So we're wired into this system. We never leave them. And they just love that once they get going. So it's a valuable thing to look beyond, we'll call it the startup phase. How do I continue to operate? How do I get the most cost-effective way to go forward? And we're zeroed in on that. I mean, we don't mess around with this. It's all about you, the customer, how much you're going to spend, and spend as least amount to get the best product.
Absolutely. And over deliver, right, guys? That's what you do.
We'd like to think so.
I would say, I'd like to jump in and say, as
You're the
as owners of
president. You get to
company-
jump in anytime you want, Mikhail. Okay.
Well, as owners of the company, we get calls all the time. I mean, we'll take a call from any customer, anytime, anywhere. We'll answer it. We'll make sure the customer is taken care of. We resolve it. We pride ourselves on being hands-on and really taking care of and dedicated to every single one of our customers, large or small. It doesn't matter. We're taking care of them.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, thinking when you started this, you weren't thinking about the cannabis business. Am I right on that, Mikhail? I mean, you got to grow flowers or living things under grow lights anyway, but were you always thinking about cannabis or not really? And you just kind of fell into it because of it?
No, we were thinking about cannabis very specifically. Just because we're all things need growing, all things need light or energy and photons to grow. However, cannabis requires a significant amount of photon energy in order to cultivate that inside. And LED was a natural springboard into making indoor horticulture viable for artificial or LED lighting. Before, you had fluorescent lighting or high pressure sodium being used, whether it's in greenhouses as supplemental or single level. But the scale of horticulture has grown to such magnitude, and the amount of indoor acreage that's being put in place, that the power consumption, it just wasn't viable to do it with traditional light sources that needed, constant maintenance and constant monitoring and intensive power. So LED lighting is the natural avenue for that. It has long life, 50,000 plus. I mean, LEDs are not going to fail. Typical failure points are power supplies because of all the components in them. LEDs are going to last forever. They might degrade over time, but really LED lighting offered that opportunity. And with the variable spectrums and the full spectrums, whether it's UV to far red, the ratios of blue to red, and the right amount of green ratios that you can put into an LED fixture, you actually can create spectrums that are cannabis designed and designed for specific cultivars and specific things that you want to grow. And knowing those ratios and how to put that together, actually, in addition to the power savings, you can yield more out of LED lighting fixtures, and specifically our spectrums that we have are specifically designed to yield more with a lot less power, and really provide the grower and the cultivator along a path towards operational success and maintaining long-term operation, lowering their operating costs and, looking at a sustainable future.
One of the things is I'm reading about your platforms, they call it the LAAP, learning as a platform. Basically, it's a smart system, right? You're recognizing the hours, the temperatures, you're monitoring it. Everything's done through a computer. Sounds like one of you has to be a really smart math guy, right? One of you, both,
But
all of you.
we're all smart math guys, but that is only because we watch the dollars in the sense that the customers are spending so to get the biggest return. But the lighting as a platform is an intelligent platform. And the reason for that, the remote power servers that we use are computer-based, all right? So basically what we do, we put layer software in that computer-based product so we can monitor all of the power going out to the different trays or the different rack legs. And then we can look at the incoming power. A lot of times companies are short supply of power. Many times they have demand limits on them. So we can actually monitor that and keep them within demand limits. And if the power has to be reduced, we can reduce that to stay under that limit. The other part of that is if they had backup power, many times when you do a backup power, you're delivering a little less power to it. We can automatically shut the lights down to a certain percentage so that you're not overloading that backup power at the same time. Solar and cogen systems can also be tied into our remote power service directly. So you don't have to go through interposing transformers and things like that. We could bring it in. So it ends up being a very highly efficient system like nothing else out on the market right now. So that you're talking about the energy conservation right off the bat is right through our system. And then the being able to dial in all of the different areas by section. We can go 4x4 section or larger. We can dial in and make those different settings as necessary based on the varieties or strains or the environmental conditions around that particular area. One of the things that we see in this is that there are many times that we call microclimates show up when you do multi-level growing. And we can sense all of that. We can make corrective changes through the lighting to compensate for the microclimate that's happening right in that particular section. No one else really does that or can do that. And we're bringing that all back into a repository that collects that data. We convert it into information to give to the owner, the operator, and the maintenance people so they know exactly what's going on. I mean, that's where growing really needs to go. And we have a lot of customers that are signing on now.
You know, you mentioned solar, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that. I know Solar Therapeutics down there in Somerset, Mass. And I think that's still the only majority solar powered grow facility in Massachusetts, unless I missed one. You probably know more than I do about that.
They've done a great job over there.
So you know those guys.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And that's what I like about this is you can go either way, but obviously power goes out. You got to have some kind of backup, right? I mean,
correct.
Right. So how does that work with you guys?
Well, the way our system works is we still have power requirements for growing, powering the lights and doing everything. But with our remote power servers, we have the ability to monitor all of the power that's going out and coming in. And we can now intelligently tie into whether it's regulated DC, we can actually tie into backup systems as well as AC driven systems from the grid. So we have our system is able to tie into both systems and intelligently go, switch over to the backup system and or back to the grid. But even more importantly, if a customer such as Solar Therapeutics were generating their own power, we can actually take regulated DC power directly into our power supplies. So you don't need to now invert it and have an additional loss. We can actually take direct DC right into our power supplies, which would be the most efficient, and provide that directly to our lighting fixtures that are out into the grow facility. So whether it's solar or cogeneration or battery storage, we have the ability to tie in and directly tie into those. And because our system has such high efficiencies, 95% or higher, and then also extremely low distortions, when we tie in into customers who are generating their own power, we actually have a much better conversion efficiency from their power generation side into what we consume to power our lights. And then on top of that, we have software and controls that give them unlimited flexibility on being able to control and dim and operate the lights that are within that system. So it really is, when you think of sustainability, not that we're sustainable in the amount of power we're really driving in the plants, but we offer a sustainable path towards a future of, a lower carbon footprint operation of a grow facility.
That's awesome, because we all are certainly more focused on the environment now than ever before. You guys, obviously, I believe you're in Rhode Island, right? Is that where you're based?
Yes.
Yes.
And as you know, what's going on in this green wave of legislation, and we move closer and closer to ending prohibition in this country. Massachusetts has been on board now for just over 2 years, and as far as their adult use program goes, but the growing in the state has been happening since, I believe, 2012. 2013 is when the medical program started. But I guess my point is the future is bright. Oh, that was a bad pun. Sorry, guys. I can't
It's
say
very
that to the
bright. You're
lighting
right.
people. I swear I didn't mean to do that. Okay.
gonna give you
The
a point.
future is
We're
bright for
blinded
the,
by the brightness.
that's right. For the industry, because it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger
Yeah.
as New York comes on board, as New Jersey comes on board. And because you're in the Northeast, you got to look at indoor grow facilities for the most part. Therefore, I'm guessing the future does look pretty positive for you guys.
Absolutely. Actually, though, I want to make clear is that we're not just indoor. Obviously, we do a lot of greenhouse growing too at the same time. But in terms of where the market's going, it's absolutely, the doors are opening up, and it's actually putting more pressure on people, because now there's a rush to make their installation start up faster. And this goes back to what our holistic way of looking at the grow rooms are all about. We're looking at all the variables for the plant density they're going to have in there, and we come up with a solution that allows people to get online as fast as possible. You can dial in your process and get going. Historically, we've seen time and time again, people buying components in a silo mentality, and it takes them a year or 2 years to dial in this system. I mean, they're losing significant money by doing that. And by investing a little more smarter, you can turn the lights on better, but the whole facility on better.
Fantastic. Hey, and how do people get in touch with TSRgrow? What's the website? Gary, give out your cell phone if you want.
Yep.
I want your phone to ring off the hook.
Sure. It's TSRgrow.com. Obviously, we've got our own website. We're on Facebook, or on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, with all the social media, something like that. And my cell phone number is 401-388-0533. Call me anytime. And by the way, if I don't pick up, it'll go over to Mikhail automatically. But one thing we say, we're open 7/24, folks. So
Well, that's
it's
great.
all about taking your calls when you need answers, and we're there to answer them for you.
Well, Gary Arnold, the VP of Sales and Marketing, you do a heck of a job. And Mikhail, you definitely have got a good one out there in the field representing your company. So I think you're in good hands for sure.
Yeah, and Jimmy, we really appreciate you having us on. I mean, it's really fantastic what you're doing and what the industry is doing, and it's really a pleasure to be here and talking to you.
Well, I tell you what, the future really is bright for Pro Cannabis Media and for TSRgrow, and I hope we get a chance to continue to work together. But for Mikhail and Gary, again, I'm Jimmy Young, the host of In the Weeds. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, take care.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jimmy.
Hi, I'm Ben Schauer, New England rep for Salient Video Management Systems. Let me tell you what makes us different in the security space. We're your trusted advisors for all your security needs. I know how complicated the regulations are in cannabis, and working with Salient Systems will be the polar opposite of that. I give free consultations and will walk you through every step of the process so that you can get what you need at the price you can afford. We're robust, we're simple and scalable. We're Salient Systems, your solutions to all your security needs. Please contact me at the information below, and I'm looking forward to being your trusted advisor.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are Two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first. Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.